Okay, so let's talk about that real quick. What do I mean by essentially, there's no hiding it. So at that point, we know the kid has a drug issue. The parents are going to be paying money into helping the kid pay for the rent. They're going to be paying money into help for the kid basically go forward and afford some sort of transportation, whether it's bus tickets or whatever. The parents are going to jump in, and that money is going to go directly into the drug dealer's hands for the most part, probably about 75% of it. We talked about some of the basics. Drug dealers will not own a place where they live. They'll usually rent because they can't get the money together to buy a place. Drug dealers, for the most part, are actually poor. The drug manufacturers, the drug distributors, are not poor. The younger the drug dealers get, the more violent they are because they look at it less as a business, more of a way to create slaves to go ahead and have them buy from them. Sources of income that they can be basically destroyed. You'll see a lot of interesting combinations with couples where all of a sudden the guy or the girl, completely different age groups. So the girl will be, 18 to 25 or whatever, and the guy will be 55 to 65, and that's the relationship. So you've got to understand, now we're at the point where the kid is facing the program. So now they're going to be going into a program, and the program is usually a dual diagnosis program. And that program is set up to basically restrict that person, that human being, that drug addicted millennial, from going out and obtaining drugs and, utilizing them and going forward in that regard. Now, who are the most dangerous people when it comes to drug deals, interactions, things like that? It's young drug dealers. Who are the people that get screwed over the most in these deals? Well, you could say the kid, the millennial, but it's usually the parents of the millennial. Who are the ones that usually have to fix it? Usually the kid, because if the kid goes into a program, they have to genuinely want to stop using drugs. And if not, the kid will eventually go to jail. And the first time they go to jail, it's, a week. Second time they go to jail, it's a couple of weeks. Third time they go to jail, it's a couple of months. Fourth time they go to jail, it's a couple of years. Only after they've been in jail for, I found, 3 to 6 years, do they really start to evaluate things. 2 years isn't enough. It's just not enough. But 3 to 6 years, we're more along that line. Okay. So what do I mean by all of this? They go into the program. They either commit to the program or they're Mr. Cool and Mrs. Cool and they don't need this crap and they don't care and blah, blah, blah. And then they end up where they are. They leave the program and they go right back to drugs and they basically become a sex slave, male or female. So millennials, let me kind of tell you what happens after the sex slavery. You collect every type of STD that's out there. You get hypertension, you get cancer, you get all kinds of things. And you usually do not make it past 50, I would say 4 to 55 years of age. You'll usually die before that. You will have a completely destroyed body. Your face, your cheeks will be sunken in, your eyes will be swollen, your eyes will be sunken at the same time, your teeth will be gone, you won't have teeth anymore. You'll have to go and get some sort of dentures. Many of you will do this before you actually reach latter 40s. Okay, so let's talk about that. A lot of you are sitting there going like, that's not me. If you smoke cigarettes and you're sitting there judging people about who have crack problems, who have, meth problems, things like that, then you are a pathetic piece of filth. And the reason why that is because you couldn't quit something relatively easy to quit. I can't quit, I've tried. Then you are a pathetic being. Smoking kills you, wah. It's going to kill you, so that's your own choice. You want to kill yourself and spend money on something that's going to kill you, go for it. But when it comes to quitting, people can quit cigarettes pretty easily. People cannot quit crack cocaine, heroin, and meth easily at all. For the millennials out there watching this video to fully understand it, if you think your life is like a gaming console, and you're like, okay, what's the hardest thing I have to beat on the gaming console? If I'm Mario, I've got to beat Bowser. That's not what we're talking about here when we're talking about beating heroin addiction issues or meth addiction issues. What we're talking about is you take the console, you put it on the ground, and you hit it with a hammer 20 times. There's pieces of plastic, metal, and junk all over the place. You now have to rebuild that entire thing. Find the pieces, find the parts, buy new pieces. You have to rebuild the whole thing enough to be able to plug it in the wall and not electrocute yourself, and then go and beat Bowser. That is why most of you that get addicted to, who casually use crack and now have a real crack problem, that is why most of you who have these, and remember, the crack nowadays is extremely good compared to the crack that they used to have back in the day. So you're going to get super addicted a hell of a lot faster. Remember, what happens now is that most of you who enjoy drugs a little bit here and there, a great percentage of you will become addicted. And when that great percentage of you become addicted, you're going to have to basically rebuild the game console, beat Bowser, and go forward with your life. I don't think you guys realize what you're giving up in the time that you have on this earth. And I don't really care if you do or don't. You'll end up my client either way, and then I'll have to work to get your disability benefits. So it doesn't really harm me in any way. It's really just your gig. But I want you to understand something. Your parents, if you had parents, somebody, took care of you. They spent a lot of time on you. And no matter what happens, we're never worth the amount of effort and love that our parents put into us. We just aren't. We're not worth it. And that's the beautiful thing about love, is that it's not something that you get back, usually what you put into it. But you're okay with it because it's love. And I just want to point out that because you as a human being exist, and I don't mean like the whole you represent a country and you should be the best that you can be and yada, yada, yada. Because you as a human being exist, you should try to use it in some positive fashion, as opposed to being a slave to a drug dealer and the banks that will financially rip you off until you are literally in your latter 40s and 50s through financial slavery. So my goal with this video, having it be a little bit different than usual disability benefits, is to explain to you why it's important to understand these things, these forces that are wrong. Student loans are wrong the way they are. Drugs, crack cocaine, heroin, they're wrong the way they are. They restrict people from doing great things, from inventing great things, from having great positions where they can help people. They restrict them immensely. And from somebody who works on a daily basis with rapists, murderers, child molesters, hardcore drug addicts. So, quite a few of my claimants used to be drug dealers or are still drug dealers, and they're going to ruin their life when they get these benefits, etc. I had one claimant. She won over $60,000 worth of back pay benefits, went up to appeals counsel 3 times, came back down, finally got her to go into the damn hearing because she would just never be available on that date. That's because I found her on her trike literally that morning. Dragged her in 2 weeks later, before she actually got her chunk of benefits. After she was found disabled, she was run over by a car. She had an IQ significantly higher than most of the high level, let's say low level genius people that are actually out there. So of all of you people watching, there's less than 1% of you that are actually at genius level. She was significantly higher than that. She could do math. That was incredible. She could do all these things, but she had addiction problems, alcohol and narcotics. It is important that you as parents understand that your children is not screwing you over. Your child is not screwing you over because they don't love you. They're doing this because they physically cannot make choices on their own without, at the very top of their list of things that they need, being the drug of their choice. They're not purposely trying to screw you over. They're just trying to survive at this point because their brain is telling them, above all things, having to go to the bathroom, having to eat, having to have a place to stay, having to have a job, having to have money. Their brain of all is saying, I need meth. So it's really important that you understand that they're not doing this to you because they're, just a bad kid. No, the drugs make them a bad kid. What made them a bad kid before the drugs could have been a bunch of things, but that's not what makes them a bad kid nowadays. And you keep in mind, these millennials are growing up. They're in the workforce now, and a lot of people make fun of them because they're not work ready. It's not one of those things where you put them on the farm and they know what to do on the farm to keep the farm running. It's one of those things where you put them on the farm and they're whining and bitching, and I'm disgusted by most of the millennials that I've hired and fired. But it is the way the world works. So if you do have questions as a parent about drug abuse of your child or millennials, I feel more importantly willing to help with that, because there's no saving the group of people that are already in their latter 30s, 40s, and 50s that are going down this path, other than professional help from dual diagnosis programs or programs in general that deal with this, and jail. Prison is not a bad thing. Prison gets them away from those people that caused this to begin with. Sure, they make new friends in prison, but the best thing that I've ever seen that could be done is moving that person to a completely new area, not allowing them to have a cell phone, and putting them into work. If I could, I would invent a new program for the military or a space program where those humans could basically go out and be in a highly structured environment and do great for humanity, which one day I would really love to do space law and create the future statutes and law in general that would be used to organize, kind of like maritime law, what we think of as the type of law that is relevant to interacting in space. Now, if your child is repeatedly going into a program and coming out and going back to drugs, it's the people they're around. If your child repeatedly keeps going to jail and coming out, or you're a millennial or whatever, and keeps going back to drugs, it's the people. The drugs cannot crawl their way to the person. They can't. They do not grow arms. Okay, whether they're in granules, whether they're in powder, whatever it is, they do not crawl to these people. Wherever you put your kid, the kid is capable of getting drugs, even if it's in the middle of a valley in Alaska. What is important is that you have to allow your child to lose everything. And then there are varying degrees of losing everything. There's losing your teeth, there's losing your eyesight, there's losing your ability to have an arm or an organ because they've sold it. There's, not having the ability to have kids anymore. There's not having the ability to be clean from STDs. There's all these things. So my point here is you have to find out what is going to be that thing that your kid loses that makes them just take a moment. It's not going to be the thing that beats the drugs, but it just takes a moment to think, wow, I'm now here for the rest of my life without that functional ability that I used to have. And if you can get them to that point, you can basically, and it's a very short period of time, convince them to go try something out in a new area. Or you can do what other parents do, which I can't advise as an attorney to do, but it is highly successful, high success rate, which is to grab the kid and basically put them in a new area, and they don't have a phone, they have to work at a job, start at a certain day and a time, and it's usually a manual labor type job. It is important to remember that the number one reason America has a low employment rate is because of narcotics. That's it. You can sit there and try and mathematically figure out a statistical reason as to why something else might be. I'm telling you as somebody who knows better than you that it is narcotics. It is drugs. It is the bad stuff. Okay? We're talking about cocaine, heroin, meth, angel dust, etc. The reason that is that when somebody gets hooked on drugs, they ruin at least 3 generations worth of people. Now you have those that are like, oh no, my mom was a drug addict and I got out of it. Yeah, but they're only working as, a low-level job that doesn't pay much. It ruins 3 generations. The 4th generation, complete reset, but at least 3 generations. Okay. And remember, the tough thing is, too, that by the 3rd generation, they may not even know what's happening with that, but they've been put in a location where the education platform is so pitiful that they'll never get what they need to actually go and do greater things in their life. So, parents, don't feed your kids money when they say they need money for food and this and that. Get them into a program. If they fail you on the program, and you got to hold them to the same standards you had in the corporate environment, if they fail you in the program, okay, then you can give them one more shot with the program. But, this is very important, after that, you have to allow them to fail at an extreme level. Or you can do what the really rich parents do, and you can basically move that child to a completely different area where they can't do anything, even if they wanted to, because they have a nanny the entire time. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is really sad and pathetic for millennials, and that it's really horrible that I have to bring up a topic like this, and it's not something that a lot of people in the political spectrum like to touch on. If we remove drug dealers from the equation in the United States, and even control better legal drug dealers, which are your big farm, what we'll end up with is a great group of people who are capable of manufacturing a lot of the things that we sent over to China to be manufacturing. If we have manufacturing jobs back, we have a lot of people that have the choices of anything from the sweeping job all the way up to the senior super duper CEO yada yada job. We need people to have purpose. Purpose is not usually their job. Don't be an idiot and think, my job is my purpose. I'm so smart. No, you're an idiot. You're a complete idiot. I don't even know how you would even conclude that. I wanted to be a singer, and now I'm a singer, but I can't make any money at it. All right, they made that one video, don't follow your passion, have your passion follow you. Brilliant. My job is my purpose. Moronic. Your job is not your purpose. Your job is how you get money to go do something you want to do that would equate to what your real purpose is, whether it's fishing or being a guitarist or whatever. That's how it actually works. So if you're one of those idiots that sits there and goes, I like to apply the golden rule with everything. I like to be treated as other people treat me. That's super good. That's not the golden rule. It's never been the golden rule. I don't know who started that moronic, stupid, I can't even say it. It's going to go on YouTube. But there's so many angry terms I want to use to define the idiots. The super extra, I just want everybody to have a puppy and feel wonderful. The idiots. Okay? You don't understand that the golden rule is very simple. And it's been this way since the beginning of time. The golden rule is, he who has the gold rules. It's always been that way. It's never not been that way. It was that way for, Europe. It was that way for the Egyptians. It's been that way since the earliest pagan, society. It's been that way since the first humans might have been humans. We weren't really sure. They could have been. It's been that way since the very beginning of time. He who has the stuff that's worth something is the one that rules, because they have the stuff that other people need. If you want me to make a custom video, go to the website. There will be a link at some point that I create for a blog platform where you can just put in what video you want me to cover next. I don't have to cover it next, so if you get you made other videos, I don't have to do your video next. If you want me to give you the most up-to-date information or a free consultation, that's fine. Give me a call, shoot me an email, and we will go from there. All right? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.